Hi, this is the Heart Pirates TCG here. I almost forgot my own name. And I recently got top 8 with Crocodile at the Treasure Cup, the online one for pro play games. So that really motivated me to make more tutorial slash masterclass videos, like more like tip videos. And this one is how to beat Katakuri. Now, Katakuri, of course, is a very luck-sacky deck, so this doesn't always work. And I'm going to talk about Katakuri in a vacuum for most of the time, and then at the end of the video I'm going to talk about the mirror match as well. So just tips in a mirror match. So without further ado, we'll talk about tip number 1. Go very wide on your board, right? Which means you play a lot of characters that have generally a decent amount of attack, which is anywhere from like 4,000 to 6,000, and you play at least 3 to 4 of them and try to keep them on the board. And what you can do is with these very low low attacks, with like 5k or 6k, you're forcing them to get rid of cards from their hand every single time you attack. Every single interaction, you force them to either take a life or get rid of cards in their hand. If you do that enough, they just have a bunch of dead cards in hand, because it's like cards like Big Mom and Katakuri and 7-cost Big Mom and Yamato and stuff like that, Sparrow. They're eventually just gonna have to take all of those attacks and they're gonna die. Right? So that's the generic answer. For removal decks like Crocodile, the goal is to do the exact same thing while also removing cards from their board at the exact same time while building a board. For example, if they play Sparrow, the 3-cost, you hit it with Zeph. You're taking away a body and then you're establishing a 6k attack. All right? And then they play Randolph, right? You play Sogeking. Okay? Sogeking. You're establishing a 3k or a 6k body while taking away one of their cards. All right, if they play 7-cost Big Mom, you play Mihawk. You're establishing a big body and then taking away one of theirs. Katakuri is one of those decks that can only play one character per turn more than most of the time. Their ideal play is only playing one character every single turn, right? And it's usually going to be on curve, which means that if they have 5 Dawn, they're going to use 5 Dawn. If they have 7 Dawn, they're going to use 7 Dawn. Right? So that's generally how they play. And if you can start taking away those one plays, all they're left with is a leader attack, right? Which at the end of the game, if you have blockers, you can definitely get around that. Only attack big characters with big characters, okay? So for example, anything over 6,000 power should never be attacked with anything under 5,000 power. Or I'm sorry, under 6,000 power. Because if you're attacking a 7,000 character like Randolph, for example, with your leader Crocodile, right? That means you have to invest 2 Dawn just to even attempt to kill that character, which is just a waste of Dawn, because a lot of times you need your Dawn to play characters or play blockers or play your removal spells, right? So that's not great. You only attack big characters with big characters. For example, you could 100% attack a Randolph with your Mihawk, your 9-cost Mihawk, because it's already much over the threshold and they have to dedicate 2 cards just to be able to save it. And I know what you're probably going to ask me. You're going to be saying, Heart Pirates, what do I do with these characters on the board then? Like, if they just play Katakuri and Big Mom, what do I do? And the answer is very simple. Ignore them. Literally ignore them, because there's no way you can deal with them, right? Because the highest attack character you have is Doflamingo, right? Your 10-cost Doflamingo, for example. I'm sorry, I'm giving you examples with Film Dovi, but most of the time your highest cost character is not as big as the 10-drop Big Mom, and even if it is, you're much better suited to take away a guaranteed life. Like if you have a 12k swing going into a 5k leader, if they have no blockers, it's almost a guaranteed hit, right? So why would you waste extra Dawn trying to get rid of that Big Mom unless you literally had to? All right, you might as well just literally take away that life for free, guaranteed, and then make them like exude pressure on them. That way they have to kill you before you kill them. Okay, and those big body characters that they play, the Katakuris, the Big Moms, the Charlotte Lindlands, all of that, those can be met with blockers. Those can be met with spider webs. Those can be met with, even if they don't play around it properly, it can be met with like a sugar. All right, or it can be met with red rocks. It can be met with you know, all these other things, right? But not counters. So you can either take the hit, you can chump block it, or you can try to do some finagling with Luffy and like try to like do spiderweb shenanigans, like that type of thing right there. But it's very rare that you're actually going to be able to take out those big moms. All right, it's very rare you're going to be able to take out those Katakuris. Now, the only exception to this is if they have very, very, very few cards in hand. And I mean, I'm talking 0 to 1 Dawn range, or I'm sorry, 0 to 1 cards in hand. And even then, you still don't go out of your way to attack a massive character, right? So if they have 1 card in hand and you have a Mihawk and they have a rested 10 cost Big Mom, you have to put 5 Dawn, 5 Dawn to be able to guarantee that card is dead, right? That's half your turn. That's half your turn right there. However, a card like Parasparrow or Randolph, you know, they're 7,000 or 8,000. If they have 0 cards in hand and you have a 6,000 attack body, you know, you can put 2 Dawn on it and wipe it. That's 20% of your turn as opposed to 50% of your turn. So only attack their big characters with slightly like smaller characters if they have very few cards in hand. And I'm talking 0 to 1, because even 2, that could be 2 2Ks. And then if you waste all of your Dawn trying to go and attack these characters and clear the board, and they have 2 2Ks, then your entire turn's wasted and you're probably going to lose, because now on the crackback, you're going to take a lot of damage. This is the exact same in pretty much every single deck, but you always want to make your opponent deal with your board rather than you dealing with theirs. Because when your opponent's always playing on the back foot, trying to control your board, trying to do things to stop what you're doing, they're not playing to win their own game, right? So for example, if you apply enough pressure on turns where they could go Katakuri, the 8 costs, they might go Sanji and Brûlé, or double Sanji, you know, for 8 Dawn, because Katakuri would be, okay, I might take 3 damage this turn, as opposed to, okay, if I play these Sanjis, I can avoid a little bit of pressure. I'm not playing my big characters, but I do get to be a little bit safer. That will always get them to lose the game, because when they stop playing their game, they will start playing your game, and in your game, you always win, right? And you're the hero in your own story. So if they are going away from their own deck strategy, then you will always be able to beat them every single time. For example, it's the same. It's the same with everything with Katakuri, right? So like on turns where they have 7 Dawn instead of playing 7 cost Big Mom, like, and they know like, okay, a smart player is just going to trash his own life, especially if I'm on the back foot. I have to play Brûlé and Sanji. I have to play defensive cards. I have to do this and that, because I'm not going to be able to survive. I'm not going to be able to play my Big Mom if I'm going to be at 0 life the next turn, because I'm instantly going to die. Right? So like when you make them have to decide between playing characters or using their Dawn to like clear your board, that's when you're winning, right? When they're playing much more defensively and when they're playing away from their own game plan, then they are in a losing spot. Now, in the mirror match, things get a little bit crazy. For the most part, you always want to go second. Obviously, whoever has the most Big Moms usually wins, and whoever plays Big Mom first is usually ahead. But you know, especially, you know, if you have more Big Moms than the other person, let's say you have 3 and they have 1, that's a 4 life swing in your favor, because you gain 2 and they lose 2. And it'd be very tough to actually get around that. But let's just say in this example, all things are even. We'll talk about some general tips. And then if you guys are interested, I also coach. The way you sign up for it is through YouTube membership. So it's going to be in that, if you see the join button, kind of like where the, I think it's by the like button, which you should smash, by the way. Yeah, those are my coaching options. So if you want some more tips, feel free to go ahead and sign up. But in this matchup, blockers are super important, right? So like Brûlé, Sanji, I would much rather establish them early than a Parasparrow or a Cracker, because like this is a kaiju fight, right? Like everyone is just like every character on the board is big, whether it be Randolph or Parasparrow, the 6 cost, you know, like the vanilla, the no effect, or it be Katakuri, Big Mom, 10 drop. They're all massive characters, all right? And you need to be able to protect your massive characters from their massive characters, or you need to be able to protect yourself where when it comes to like it's time for you to play characters, you don't want them to be like, okay, if I play this Big Mom, they have 4 attacks, that are just massive that I just wouldn't be able to get out of, would I just instantly die this turn? And that's where like a blocker or two would really come in handy, because you know, okay, I can take 2 hits fine and then block the other 2, and I'll be relatively healthy, and I have this extra card that, you know, it might be a little greedy to do that, you know, try to play like the big mom even when you're losing board presence. But if you have blockers, you can get away with that, and you just got that extra life while taking away theirs. So blockers are super important, very, very, very important in this matchup, because like even if what they do is like, you know, towards the end of the game, like when the chips are, you know, when the characters are all out on the board and the chips are on the line, everything's down, everyone's all in. Sometimes they're going to want to try to crack your characters, right? Like sometimes they'll swing at your Katakuri 8 cost with their 10 cost Big Mom. That's 4k, right? You're going to have to discard 2 2ks and a 1k just to get out of that a basic swing with no Dawn attached, with no Dawn investment. But if you have a Brûlée, that Katakuri's safe. If you have a Sanji, that Katakuri's safe, right? Even, I know a lot of people don't play Pound, but like Pound, that Katakuri's safe. And like when their attacks are starting to nullify and your attacks are always connecting, or forcing them to get rid of like 3 to 4 cards in hand to be able to save these characters, you're gonna start winning, because the second they like overextend to try to save a character, you can pretty much just instantly kill them. Because if they have 3 life left and you have 2 Big Moms and like, let's say a Randolph, they can't, and if they discard 3 or 4 cards to get out of an attack, they can't survive the next turn, because they're sure as hell not blocking or countering out of the 2 12s, the 12k attacks with the Big Moms. They're probably not countering out of 2 9s either with your leader and Randolph. So you pretty much automatically beat them unless they have like a trigger out of life, which this is Katakuri, so that very well could be. But that's just like a generic kind of sequence that's kind of on my mind. It's very hard to like give you guys specific examples when you're not like playing in that game, if that makes sense, because every game is different, every single one, but these are just generic guidelines. Okay. It's also important not to take too much life early on, because I know a lot of people can get very trigger happy, trying to basically like cheese out a win by, okay, can I trigger Sanji and Cracker and Parasparrow, like all of these cards, like can I do that and just like kind of like get a free win? A lot of people try to do that and they'll end up taking like 3 life really early on, and then when it comes time to dropping Big Moms, they're at 1 life, you know, because like Big Mom trashes 1, or you know, now they're at 2 life, but you know, they played their Big Mom first. So it's like very scary, because even if they go back to 3 life, if they play another Big Mom, they're back at 2, and then of course the Big Mom played the previous turn is going to attack for 12, which you're going to have to take, which means you're at 1 life. And you know, like it can be very scary, right? It can be very scary because like when you're very low on life with Katakuri, I know it's a trigger happy deck with a lot of like defense in life, but like you don't ever want to put yourself in that situation. You don't want to try to win based on triggers or like your other or your opponent making a mistake. That's like the thing you should never do, right? Is always try to put yourself in a position, if you can, where you know the outcome based on either like math or whatever it is, right? Because you never want to rely on other people to control your own destiny. You want to control your own destiny. You want to win the game. You don't want them to lose the game for themselves, right? Because one, that also feels better, right? So my advice would just be to take like maybe 1 or 2 at most very early on, and then do your best to try to basically not counter out of attacks that, you know, are unnecessary. Like don't counter out of a 9k swing just because, you know, you're gonna be at 2 life. If you can counter out of like an attack like semi easily after you already took in a life or 2, you should definitely do that, right? Don't keep taking life trying to get triggers. Like that's not a winning strategy. But yeah, that's it, guys. If you want to sign up for my coaching, like I said, it's at the bottom. It's at the join button at the bottom of the screen, or I'm sorry, by the like button. I think I'm gonna try to do a lot of the meta decks, like a kind of like a coaching video like this. I'm off today, so I'm gonna try to record a couple of these and kind of schedule them out. But hopefully you guys liked the video. Let me know if you did, and then if you let me know like a somewhat meta relevant deck that I can kind of coach you through, that would be really cool too. I have a couple things planned, obviously, like stuff like Crocodile or Film Kid, Film Dofi, stuff like that. But if you have any suggestions, let me know, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.